Hey there, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner, your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
We're a minimalist couple driven by intentional living and adventure.
Burned out from the 24/7 grind of running our business, we traded the hustle and the bustle for something more meaningful.
We parted ways with most of our belongings and moved to the coast.
Listen along as we chat about life's challenges, share inspiring stories of those who have taken big leaps to live a life outside of the norm,
and help you live with more intention and less physical and mental clutter.
Each episode is a step toward doing and being just a little bit better for ourselves and the world around us.
Life's an adventure after all. Join us for the ride.
It's the Arner Adventures podcast. Hello everybody, I'm Jerry.
And I'm Shannon.
And we're back for episode 140 of the Arner Adventures podcast.
Ay, 140.
Yeah, 140, I know. I love when we hit the round numbers.
Yeah. I just love that it keeps going up. And I'm going to say that every single episode.
Every single time. And we're almost at 150, and that'll be a landmark.
I mean, we just had our 100th, it seems like.
We did.
We celebrated with Betty.
We did. That's right. Mm-hmm. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to just keep moving right along.
Yeah. And I love that we are so authentic. And we always offer what we think would be helpful nuggets that we've learned in our lives. Uh-huh. And I think this week is no different.
No different at all. And we will offer these little nuggets to the everybody out there listening in podcast land.
So today's episode is about healthy television habits, watching TV with wellness in mind.
That's right. Yeah.
And you may think that healthy television habits are an oxymoron. But, we also had an episode about social media benefits before and how it can be a benefit to your life. And this is no different. We're going to talk about some benefits when done correctly.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's like with anything, there's an upside and a downside. And usually if you have a little self-discipline, you can get something good out of it, or try to get the good out of it.
I did some digging for this episode, like I always do. I like to put some research, some healthy statistics into what we're talking about.
Right.
And Jerry, you may find it interesting that 80% of Americans, that's 4 out of every 5 Americans. Oh, see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Because you're really good about the math.
Yeah. 8 out of every 10 Americans.
Okay, I got that. 80% of Americans consider watching TV a leisure activity that is a significant part of their lives. Now, we think that's a little sad, and we've been there, folks. We've been there, and we're not saying that TV is evil. This episode is talking about the healthy part of TV watching, but we don't think it should be a significant part of your life.
Yeah, but that being said, if 80 out of 100 Americans consider it a leisure activity, well, then we should offer up tips. It's not going away, right?
That's true.
So we should offer up good, healthy viewing tips for those 80 out of 100 Americans.
Do you remember when we had Graham Brown on the podcast?
I do.
And he was... just to tell you guys who didn't hear that episode, and you can go back and listen to it, but he, much like us, sold everything. And he, his wife, and his child went, and they live like a nomadic life. They live out of their suitcase. And he's very successful living his life that way.
Yeah.
But when he was selling everything, his neighbor came outside when he saw him getting rid of his big screen TV. And the neighbor said to him, "But what are you going to do?"
Yeah, that's right.
And Graham was like, "What do you mean?" Like thinking he meant the big picture. And he goes, "You're selling your TV. What are you going to do?"
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not going to have a TV. Like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Like, there's plenty to do without a TV.
I remember that. Are you feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff piling up in your life? We've got something just for you. It's the Arner Adventures Declutter 365.
Declutter 365 is our easy-to-follow guide designed to help you clear out the clutter from every corner of your life. Whether it's the pile of stuff in your home, the endless digital files on your devices, or even the mental load that keeps you up at night, we've got you covered.
Every day, you tackle a simple task that helps you chip away at the clutter. And the best part, you can start anytime. There's no need to wait for the new year or a Monday. You can dive in whenever you're ready.
Over the span of a year, we'll tackle physical, mental, and digital clutter. Imagine having a more organized home, a cleaner inbox, and a calmer mind, all without feeling overwhelmed. It's all about taking small, manageable steps that add to big changes.
Join us on this journey to a simpler, more mindful life. Head over to arnerventures.com/shop.
Let's make space for what truly matters. And now, let's get back to the show. We also have a friend who, I don't know if she has a TV now, but her husband, her 3 kids do not have a television. Or did not for a number of years. I don't know if they do now. But I remember, even because this is before we sold all of our stuff and have a different lifestyle. We do have a TV, by the way. Hence talking about this episode. But I remember thinking, wow, that is admirable. Like, I wish that we didn't have a TV.
Yeah.
But we do, and we do it in a wellness, healthy way, I think.
I think so. Yeah. I think we have good TV habits, and that's why we're going to share them with you.
We are. We're going to go through some key points of how you can have healthy TV watching habits. So let's go through them and explore some of the ways that you can do so. Do you want to start with number 1 or shall I?
Let's do it. I'll start. So the first of our healthy TV viewing habits is to set TV watching boundaries.
Mm-hmm. How do you do so, Jer?
How do you do so? Well, let me tell you, Shannon, you can create a schedule. And a schedule is good in any aspect of life, but just avoids mindless, scrolling with the remote, I would think, because you want a little time to relax. You feel TV's relaxing, so you go, well, at 11 a.m. I'll be done with my Saturday morning chores, and I'm going to watch an episode of Mama's Family.
You and that Mama's Family.
Starring Vicki Lawrence and Ken Berry. And so you do that until 11:30, and you've set it. You maybe put the remote a few feet away from you so you don't start scrolling at commercials and forget what you're doing. But you've done that, and at 11:30 you've decided, as part of your schedule, you were going to get up and do something else, like make lunch or something.
I think what you're saying here is to avoid having TV as like a 24/7 background noise.
Right?
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's be intentional about your TV watching instead of having it sort of become part of the background and kind of ruling what you do.
Yeah.
Stopping you in your tracks every 10 seconds to, see what's going on.
Do you know what I love? I love when I realize there's been like a whole day and we haven't turned on the TV. Because if you folks who knew us before, you might think that's kind of shocking, but I feel like there's a before we sold everything and an after we sold everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we have a TV. I just feel like we are more mindful to be intentional with other things in our lives. Like it's just not, I do remember coming home, and before I even took the dogs out, it would be, let me pop the TV on. Like it was just automatic,
Yeah.
And I just think that when you're talking about setting television watching boundaries, that's one thing that you probably want to avoid doing.
I would say so, and it's probably pretty common with a lot of people. It's an impulse that you you don't think about it, you just do it, and it doesn't take a lot of effort either. So
the next part underneath set TV watching boundaries is avoid marathon watching. Now listen, we love binging some Netflix stuff better than the next person, but what we do a really good job of is limiting ourselves to 1 to 2 episodes simultaneously. It allows us to sort of savor the experience. So we got really excited about, I'm trying to think most recent, The Bear, the new season of The Bear.
Yep.
And a lot of people would be like, oh my God, I'm going to binge it in one night or in 2 nights or whatever. And Jerry and I do like an episode a night, where right now we're kind of out of it, which we'll talk about in a minute. But we do like an episode a night of something so that we can really savor the experience and it lasts a little bit longer. I think it also makes the episodes more memorable, and we can kind of we are more mindful about the episodes when you're like, oh, this is one episode we're watching tonight. And so I don't know, it's like you sort of get into the episode more, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. It's just it's a better way to watch for me, definitely.
Yeah.
I would think it'd be a good habit for anybody though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that leads us to the next one, which is mindful watching. And that's kind of what we've been saying. It's like mindful eating. If you're sitting in front of the TV with your food, you're not being mindful about what you're eating and you don't even really know, you're just consuming it.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with the TV.
Yeah.
Like if it's in front of you and you're not even consuming it, just turn it off.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
really nothing worse, I think, and we've done this. That's why I'm saying it. Like from experience, there's nothing worse than having the TV on and suddenly 6 hours have passed. Like, what? And it's the same thing with scrolling. Like you have to limit yourself with the social media stuff too. It's like you can sit there and scroll, and 2 hours have passed. It's kind of mind-boggling how we can get really pulled in, but that is what these things are meant to do, is to keep you on there,
No, that's a good point. Yeah, and they're both like each other, and I think everybody's vulnerable to an extent. I think it's just easy to go
Yeah.
from one thing to another.
And please know that when we say this, these are things we work on too.
Of
Like we're
course,
speaking from
yeah,
experience and
yeah.
what we're working on. We're not going, you should do this and doing our finger. Like these are things that we're kind of saying to ourselves too, that we really try to practice.
Yeah, because I think well, and I think more people than not get caught up in these habits. So it's good for it just to talk about it, and then you kind of something to be aware about and
Yeah.
kind of keep an eye on and go, oh yeah, I can do better with that. I can
Yeah.
do better with that. Yeah. Um, Placement is key. A
Mhm.
TV in the bedroom. We got one. We don't use it much, so it's just in there, but it's not good for sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
Screen use really isn't any time close to when you're sleeping. And so if you are gonna, like sometimes I might relax on a bed and watch a little bit of a ball game during the day.
Yeah. Like a nap.
And like a nap time puts me to sleep. But at night, I really don't like to do it.
I like that our TV, like in our main TV in the living room, I like that we have this time that we watch whatever show we're going to watch, which we'll get into in a minute. And then we turn it off and then we do our wind down, our showers, our, kind of straightening up the bed, that bedtime ritual stuff.
Uh-huh.
We put our phones to bed, which we've talked about before. We put
Mhm.
our phones in another room on a charger, and it starts eliminating that screen time. So the rule of thumb is to eliminate your screen time, TV and phone, at least an hour before bed. It's better if you can even do 2 hours. It's like the way that your brain responds to or starts developing melatonin to kind of get you ready for sleep time.
Right.
And so I like that it's okay, this is where we watch TV.
Mhm.
That is where we sleep.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I
yeah.
like the two different things.
Definitely good for us.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
And with that being said, I there have been times where either we've not been doing well, like physically, like sick, or I'm thinking about COVID, right?
yeah.
You're just laying in the bed. It's like, just watch the TV. I mean, we're not talking about when you're convalescing or you're trying to move through a time in your life that you're really trying to recuperate and get. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about regular life.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
great for sleep hygiene, like Jerry said.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're getting into the exciting part, right?
And this is the fun part. Now we've laid the groundwork. Now
Mhm.
we're at the fun part, y'all.
So the number 2 point that we have about how to have healthy television habits is our television recommendations.
Right.
And we broke them into 3 sections. So one is for a fun, mindless escape, which you still want to be mindful, which we'll explain. The second one is for perspective and reflection. And the third is for nostalgic comfort. So let's talk about
Some good categories.
I think so.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think so.
Nice work.
So the first one we'll talk about is for a fun, mindless escape. Now, listen, we said mindless in a way that, okay, let's talk about why we're not doing the bear right now, or why we're not doing any of our other stuff that requires a lot of thought. Jerry and I are in a process of our lives right now that we are we're grieving and we're kind of handling different wellness aspects of our lives. So we don't want to have things on TV that we're really having to emotionally align with. So we need something in our lives right now that is a fun, mindless escape in a way that we do pay attention, and we pay attention to these episodes, but it's really not going to affect our lives either way. Like, we're not going to get emotionally vested. I mean, I don't think I do.
No.
Do you?
Oh no, not with what we're getting ready to talk about. No,
Okay, so do you want to tell them
all.
what the TV recommendation for this category is?
Well, yeah, and this is a pretty recent thing with us. We picked up on Ghost Adventures, which Adventurers.
No,
What?
it's Adventures.
Adventures.
I
Which
thought it was too. We kept saying Ghost Adventurers, but it's Ghost Adventures. Like when he says it's our Ghost Adventures.
He does say that. Yeah.
It's Ghost Adventures.
Uh-huh. He says that in a really convincing way too.
He
It's
does.
our Ghost Adventures.
Now listen, we're not new to Ghost Adventures.
No,
We
it's
used to watch it back in the day.
been around since 2008, and I think we used to watch it back when it first came on. It's on the Travel Channel, and it was just fun, a little fun to watch, but I don't think we ever got hung up on it like we have in the last month or two.
Yeah,
It's good mindless fun
it
for
is.
lately, and our most recent dive into mindless TV fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is kind of interesting that we watch it to have sort of a light scare before bed. It's probably not the best thing for like
yeah,
anxiety or anything like
uh-huh.
that, but it is a lot of fun, and it's really fun to make fun of Zach and Aaron.
Zach and Aaron are the two major players on this show, and they're almost there for you to make a little bit of fun of. You can tell by the way they act. I think it's kind of set up for that.
Yeah.
That you should be kind of entertained by them, even though they're doing something very, very serious and hunting ghosts.
Oh, they take it really seriously.
They do.
But the great thing is we don't have to. And I think that's why
Yeah.
it's working for us right now.
Yeah.
And we usually do an episode and then we move on. The great thing is there's a lot of material to work with
There's
here.
a lot of material. There's a lot of material. And the fact that they kind of make fun of themselves a little bit on there, I think, is what sets them apart from those other. There's a million ghost shows on cable, it seems, but that one seems to stand out. The
Yeah.
Ghost Adventures, yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
So the next section is for perspective and reflection. We
Uh-huh.
are not here right now in this, but we have been.
Yep.
We're going to move back to it at some point. But this episode, Jer, is what?
Well, Dateline.
Right.
We've watched Dateline on and off for 20 years, probably. It was always a big Friday night and Saturday night thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was marquee entertainment with some popcorn and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Well, any kind of true crime or murder investigation shows, they give you good perspective.
They totally give you good perspective.
That is the whole thing with those.
All of a sudden, that gal at work that's really annoying the
Yeah.
heck out of you,
Uh-huh.
and that email that she sent that was snarky, or your boss is just on you or whatever. I mean, it really doesn't seem so bad when compared to the real life stories on Dateline.
The things that people get themselves, the holes they dig, and the way they do it, the stupid ways.
Or as Alec Murdaugh says, "Oh, a tangled web we weave when we
That's
tell a
right.
lie."
Yeah. I'll deal with this hangnail all day long and just be glad I don't have the kind of trouble
Yeah.
that these people do.
Yeah.
A lot of times too. Well, I think the shows are geared this way on purpose. It's not like that kind of person they portray that, well, they would end up in jail anyway at some time. It's usually somebody or some place that you wouldn't think something like that would happen.
They
Or-
always say that.
Or you wouldn't think, or you wouldn't think it's the kind of person who might do that. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
but they've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that it's always good to have some perspective on your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
The third one I think is my favorite. Is for
Oh,
nostalgic
yeah.
comfort.
Right.
So for nostalgic comfort, I think you and I have our own sort of favorites, but
Mhm.
I was going to say as of recent, but Golden Girls has always been my nostalgic comfort.
Yeah.
It's a warm blanket. It makes me feel good inside. It's a comforting escape, but I'm always very in tune to the episodes.
Right.
We were on a plane recently, and I was watching it with my headphones, and I know I could probably recite the script of every episode, but I am laughing in my seat, and Jerry just looks over at me and is just like laughing at me laughing.
Yeah,
but it's still funny. I of course get to see Betty White, which I love.
Yeah.
And then you have one that I'm sort of recently into.
Well, and speaking of Betty White, her previous series to that was her role on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and we somehow we just tapped into those recently. I always watched that growing up, and so we've been watching those after Ghost Adventures just to give a little bit of a lighthearted look at things before we go to bed instead of going to bed right on top of Ghost Adventures.
Well, and I made the comment recently that there's going to be a couple of nights that I'm here by myself coming up, and I was like, we have to stop the Ghost Adventures at night before you leave, because I'm not going to be able to have that in my mind.
Right.
In my house.
Start watching fun sitcoms. I also, too, a couple of my favorites. I like a lot of sitcoms, but I know since we've been able to stream things in recent years, Family Ties and Wonder Years, which is more, it's not exactly a sitcom, but it's kind of comical.
Yeah.
I like those, especially Family Ties, though. That's a good little sitcom.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I grew up watching Family Ties, so we both relate to that.
I watched all 7 seasons, streamed them all straight through at one time a couple of years ago. So
not at one time. You're making them think that you sat here for 2 days and just didn't get up.
No, but I went in a row and did it until I was done from one. I mean, it went over a period of time, but I went through for season 1 through season 7. So that was kind of fun.
Well, the third point that we'll get to, sort of the last one about how to make TV watching a healthy habit, is really pairing it with more of the wellness aspect. So you can balance it with other health activities. So still being mindful. Like I really like, especially if I'm by myself and maybe I'm doing some stretching, or I know it's going to be something that lasts a long time and I have to stay motivated, right? I'll put on a documentary of something that I really want to learn about or really want to know about. So I can do it with stretching, or if you have a stationary bike or a walking pad and you're like, okay, I need to get that 30 minutes in, you can put on a television show that you really want to watch. Don't just turn it on to turn it on, but something that you really want to get into, and it actually will help the time go by really fast.
Oh yeah, that's true. And you're doing 2 things, useful things at once. You're entertaining yourself with something you like, and you're doing some stretching or whatever it is that you do.
Yeah.
Or knitting or whatever you want to do. But that's a good thing to do. Interactive viewing is kind of interesting when you talk with friends in online communities, and they talk up the show. Like, I mean, that goes in a little bit of the podcast I guess you're listening to. The Golden Girls thing. Do people?
Yes, they have a forum. There's a Facebook forum that you could get on and talk about the episodes as well. But it's much like a book club, but for TV watching.
If you like book clubs, this is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, or if you don't like book clubs,
you might still like this.
You might like this.
Yeah.
I think there are Reddit threads about different things you watch. So you can, if there's a weekly show that comes on, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to watch this episode. And then I'm going to get together with my TV club watching group and talk about it. It can be great to join online communities to do that, just to have the experience. It's more interactive and social.
Yeah. Hey, and we all need rewards. Incentives are important. So
good
why
segue.
not? Yes, right. Why not use TV as a little reward at the end of a hard day's work, or some hard yard work, or some hard work. Just set up a little fun sitcom for you to watch, or so anything you enjoy, really. Could be sports. We haven't talked a lot about sports on TV either. That's a fun pastime. And whatever you like on TV after you've achieved a few things and got the things done that you needed to do.
Yeah, it could be getting your steps in for the day. Okay, I'm going to reward myself, or
have a little snack with it.
Yeah, Jerry's popcorn.
Yeah.
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 So as you can see, it's really about, what do you always say, Jerry?
Well, what do you think? Yeah, everything about this is to do it in moderation,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah,
You say that about a lot of things.
I
I
do.
think it's the key to life.
It is.
Everything in
And
moderation.
it's one thing to say it. Sometimes it is hard to moderate with
Yeah.
certain things because you might just get caught up in it and fail to moderate.
Yeah. But with TV, it really is about moderation. It can be a healthy part of your life.
Yep.
It's about setting the boundaries, making the right choices, make it less of a time suck.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like social media, all of it. It can be done in a wellness minded way with joy, relaxation. It can be a really positive thing.
Yeah, and not only if in a time suck is it getting to be a little too much of a good thing, it also, like it's taken away time from other things you had to do. And then once you break out of it, you're like, wow, I'm way behind on things I got to get done. And then it all can kind of spiral and become a bad thing. So it's all about managing it. Yeah. And just like managing other aspects of your life and keeping it in moderation. If this episode resonated with you, or if you know of someone who would benefit from what we talked about, please share it with a friend.
It's a great way of supporting the podcast, and we really appreciate it.
Another way of supporting the pod is by leaving us a 5-star review or rating on the platform you are listening to us on.
And go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That also supports us. You can always find us, the show notes, and sponsors who support the podcast at arneradventures.com.
And until next time, enjoy the journey you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Bye-bye.